Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Again, I am Kaylee Batesman, the Managing Director, Community and Partnerships at SheCanCode, and today we're discussing thriving in tech without a tech background. In this episode, I'm joined by Alison Leightley, Events Marketing Manager at Redgate Software. She is here to share her unique journey into the world of tech, which hasn't been a straight linear path like a lot of us. But we're lucky to have her here to open up about the challenges she's faced, the triumphs she's celebrated, and what it's like to build a career in tech without being techie. Hi, Alison. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Kaylee. It's lovely speaking with you today.
It's a
Uh,
pleasure to have you on. Our community is going to love hearing your story because a lot of our community will be able to relate to your story. So thank you for joining us. But we'd love to start with a bit of background about you, if that's okay, how you got in, how you found your way to Redgate, and where life started for you.
sure, happy to chat through that. I'm the events marketing manager at Redgate. I've been at Redgate Software for about just under 2 years now, and this is my first role in tech and software. And it's definitely not been a linear career for me. So I started my background is completely in life science. So I trained as a biochemist. I worked in the lab as a microbiologist for at least 10 years. And then during that time, it's a bit of an odd bit, but I also had a really keen interest in events and always have. And so I did a diploma in wedding and event planning just on the side as a hobby. And I kind of didn't
I
realize,
haven't heard that one yet.
I told you it's definitely not linear. Um, and then I didn't kind of realize that would actually have quite an impact on my career journey because it really was just something I was just doing for fun. And then I completed my master's in biochemistry. And then at that point realized that actually I wasn't really good at being hands-on in the lab. And I much preferred the theory and like the communication, like scientific communications. So that's where I did my kind of first pivot, which was out of the lab and into commercial roles. So I took my first commercial role as an event coordinator for a scientific company. And this is where I kind of first merged my two passions together. Didn't even realize those jobs existed at the time. And it was at that point that I decided to really move more into marketing. So I did a marketing qualification and really learn about marcoms and digital marketing, all of that kind of side of things. And then I had a manager at the time who said to me, to be an amazing marketer, you've got to have at least 3 years in sales. So I thought, okay, let's go give that a go. So then moved into sales and I did that for 3 years, which I absolutely loved. And I kind of thought I would stay always in sales. But then I was approached by a small biotech in Cambridge who gave me the opportunity to start and scale their marketing department. And so I thought, let's give that a go. Yeah, quite all over the place. Um, I stayed there for a couple of years, but it was at that point that I had a family and I had a really little boy at the time. And I just realized that actually, even though I absolutely loved my career and I loved doing what I was doing, it was just far too much to do that and be present as a parent. And I knew I needed to refine that balance that I'd kind of lost, or I could do when I was 20, but I couldn't do now with a young family. So that's where Redgate came in. So Redgate has this exceptional reputation in Cambridge, even like outside of their sector. Everybody in that Cambridge ecosystem knows like how good an employer Redgate is meant to be. They're just really well known for that. I had no idea what Redgate did. I just knew that they were a great employer. I knew that they valued work-life balance. I knew that they valued people and culture. And I just thought, I just want to give that a try. And just at that moment in time, they had this role that came up, and I thought, I can do that. Like, I didn't ever think I'd be, suitable for tech, but I thought, oh, actually, I can do that. So I had my interview, realized that it ticked all my boxes for what I wanted. And I was super nervous because I just thought, I've literally never done anything outside of science. But let's just take this jump, and that 2 years on, that's where I am.
I love that. I have so many questions from everything that you just said.
I told you it was a bit odd.
That was a real. I went on a real journey with you right then. To It was very squiggly, as we say, squiggly Chris.
Yes.
But you have obviously picked up a whole range of skills along the way that all led you to tech, because you sounded quite surprised when it's like you saw that role and was like, actually I can do that. Like
Yeah.
all the stars had aligned with all of the things that you had learned, and then it sounded like you almost surprised yourself when you saw the role. I was like,
Oh,
how did you do that?
100%. I would have never, whenever I was looking for job roles before, I only ever looked in the life science industry. Never ever had I considered leaving the industry. So yeah, and I would never have thought that I'd, be qualified enough to go into a different industry. So yeah, I was really surprised.
Yeah.
And I really thought, oh, I'm going to need to have a tech background, but actually, you don't always have to.
No, and some companies as well. We have had that conversation recently with a lot of the companies that we work with. They are just looking for potential as well. They are looking for people that are willing to learn, soak things up fast. You don't have to tick all of those boxes to be seen by a company, but sometimes seeing that job application will put people off, and then they'll just think, actually, I'm just not going to apply, or I'm not going to come over. And actually, those companies are sitting there just screaming out for people to at least put their name forward. Um, I'm so curious though. What happened with when you were younger? Why did you want to go into science and end up in a lab? Like who inspired you there? Was there
Um,
something you saw at home,
no,
family?
no. So the honest truth is, I really wanted to be a doctor. That was always my ambition because I love working with people. Always have. I've always wanted to do something good for the world, and those kind of things came together. But when I was studying, I realized that my grades weren't quite good enough, and so my plan was to do medical biochemistry and then step in and then convert it into a medical degree. But after starting my medical biochemistry degree, I realized actually, do you know what? I don't like blood. I don't like breadth. I wanted to go, really deep into a subject.
Yes.
Um, and I just remember one of my tutors at uni just saying, you should just pick whatever you love doing. If you're enjoying it, it's much better to do a career in something you love than forcing yourself into something that you feel out of your, you know, enjoyment. Um, and I just really, really enjoyed the microbiology side of things, and I just kept going deeper and deeper into the subject.
Amazing. And I'm curious myself now. What is life like working in a lab?
Oh, it was great. It was lovely. It was really, really good fun. It's got a really nice it's really great because everybody is there because they love it. So everybody works really, really hard in the lab. You can't eat or drink in a lab. So then it forces everybody to take like breaks together. So you
Uh-huh.
have this period of the day, unlike an office where it's quite chatty, everybody's just really deep into what they're doing. And then everybody exits. And then you have the tea break and you're talking about all kinds of random things. And then you go back in. And it's just really flexible and fun, and just yeah, everyone's really passionate about what they do.
Oh,
So
I
it's
love that.
great.
Yeah, the culture must be really unique, because you're right, in an office, most people don't really leave their desks, or they do and they come back, sit at their desk with a sandwich and
Yeah, and
don't
it's
do
easy to kind of just work through in an office. Like you kind of think, oh, I'll just sit here and type and I'll eat and do everything at the same time, but you just can't do that in a lab. So
yeah.
yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, I love that. I wanted to ask you as well. I mean, you have a background in STEM,
Yes.
at least, and then you took several other career routes as well, even through sales. I mean, that is quite a baptism of fire, even going through sales, and all the pressures that come with it. I mean, by the time that you reached Redgate, I mean, they say like pressure makes diamonds. So you also went through a sales route as well. But obviously you face lots of challenges along the way,
Mhm.
and challenges going into tech itself anyway, because it sounds like it's going to be intimidating, and there's lots of things that come with that. But what were some of your biggest challenges that you faced when you did transition into the tech industry, and how did you overcome them?
My biggest challenge was definitely going from being like a real specialist in my field. So I used to be the one who could write the copy, I could approve the copy. Creating content for me was never an issue because I understood the subject matter. I was a specialist in it. So it was really, it's really easy to now suddenly going into a place where I didn't understand the acronyms, I didn't understand the customer base, I didn't have a clue what Redgate did at all. I didn't even understand like the layer below, above that, where, what even our databases, what our software engineers, what do they do? So just, I think the biggest challenge was going from being that expert to suddenly just not having a clue what's happening around you. Um, but I think for me, the way I overcame that was just by asking a lot of questions and being very, very curious and not being afraid to feel a bit stupid at times.
Yeah,
Even though, they're not stupid questions at all. I think that that kind of old age phrase of there's no such thing as a silly question, it's just so true. Um, yeah, so I would literally just keep asking until I understood. And then I would ask different people as well, the same kind of question, because everyone would be able to answer it in a different way. And some of them I'd find really relatable. Others I still wouldn't be any wiser after asking the question.
yes,
And then what I really learned, and this is where I really enjoyed it actually, is part of the challenge was trying to work out how to bring different people together to get the result that I needed without necessarily being the one who could understand what it was that I was creating. So
yeah,
one of the things, one of the main parts of my job is kind of creating content schedules for our events. We do a lot of hosted events, but obviously I don't really, I'm not that person who's coming to our events as an attendee. So I don't necessarily understand exactly what topics they're finding exciting. So my role is to kind of speak to the customers, find out what's exciting, speak to our other marketers, find out what they think's exciting from like a Redgate point of view, and kind of bring all that together and then find the right people who are going to say, yes, this makes sense, or this doesn't make sense. And yeah, just bringing everything together.
I love that. I love it. And being at a company where you're allowed to be curious and ask questions to get to that point as well is so important. And I love the fact that you have that tip there about asking different people because that I learned that. Funny enough, this is a very strange example, but I learned that learning ballet because it's the same things over and over again. It's the same words that is used that you have to learn in ballet. And somebody told me that, and they said you should go to different classes to hear from different teachers because they'll say the same thing but it will go in at different times from different people. And I hadn't actually noticed until that started happening. And you're right, because you can keep asking the same people, but you'll start doubting yourself eventually because you're asking and asking. You think, oh, perhaps I'm not taking this in, especially in tech. It can be quite intimidating in tech if you are around people that use a lot of jargon. There's
A
a lot of
lot of
things.
jargon.
Yeah, and a lot of acronyms, and you're kind of like, is it me? Am I the only one that isn't taking this in? So, and also just realizing everybody else is thinking the same as you as well. Everyone else is thinking, I have
100%.
no idea what was said.
And if you ask like a software engineer, tell me about a database, you'll get a very different answer to if you ask someone in sales, to if you ask someone in marketing. And you've got to find the one that relates to you. I mean, I had someone earlier, quite recently actually describe, how a database works in the context of like if it was a filing cabinet. And I was like, I get that because I know what a filing, like filing cabinets, I get. Um,
Yeah.
but when they try to go to techie, if you don't have years of this background or experience, it's really hard to take in and just fully understand what they're trying to say.
Yes, and it's usually just trying to come together on a project. We have that at our hackathons. So we always have a theme, like a tech for good theme. And last year it was women's safety. So everybody created projects in aid of refuge. And we always say to people, come along, even if you're not techie, and even if it's not your day job, but it will just get you used to what people talk about, how they bring a project together, and that it's not actually as scary as you think it is. So we invite everybody to come along and just be part of the team and you contribute in your own way. You might not be there building a database on the back end, but you contribute in your own way. Because so many people think that they go to meetings and I have no idea what. everybody's talking about.
Sometimes though, you need that like other world experience as well, because when you're deep within, your subject, you just repeat the same thing over and over again, don't you? So I'm with you. I find if you get people from other spheres of life, they can contribute in a way that you suddenly go, oh, I hadn't really thought about it in that way, and actually can make it better.
Yes, exactly. And I love that, because it's as well, the whole argument for diverse teams. Because if you keep having the same people say the same thing, you're just never going to move forward. Somebody at some point needs to say, yeah, I don't think we should do that, or at least save a company from a very bad PR mistake sometimes. But have you tried looking at it a completely different way, instead of keep repeating the same, not always mistakes, but the same things? You never move forward or innovate.
Yeah.
What about your experience working at Redgate? Can you tell us a little bit about that, and what aspects of the company culture have helped you thrive?
Yeah, more than happy to. Redgate's like an amazing place if you've never been. It almost sounds a bit fake, but it just exceeds expectations. Um, so I think one of the aspects which has been really amazing, which we kind of touched on earlier, is that everyone's just so friendly, so and approachable as well. There's no arseholes. That's one of our values. And it's so true.
Everyone should have that bullet point, but not everybody actually lives it.
Yeah, it's so true. So I feel completely empowered to go speak to anybody in the company to ask the questions that I need to ask to get the information I need. So whether that is, approaching the software team, or whether that's approaching the senior leadership team, the sales team, finance, whoever I need to approach, everybody is willing to help you. And everyone, like one of our other values is that we do our best work in teams, and you just get that feeling at Redgate. It's really lovely actually how everyone's always willing to take the time to kind of help you for whatever you need. Um, so definitely everybody breathing and living the values makes a huge difference at Redgate. That is what makes you, that's definitely what's helped me thrive. Um, I think like the
That doesn't sound fake, by the way. I have actually heard that from quite a few Redgaters, that it's almost as you have your interview and then you're kind of thinking like, oh, that sounds like a great job, but it's probably not actually like that. And then you get in and you're like, oh, wow.
it's better. It's
I've never experienced this in a job before. What's going on?
Yeah, it's even better than what they put in their, marketing materials when they're trying to employ you. Um, Redgate are great as well at supporting families, and that's,
Mm.
something that's super important in this day and age, where you do have like two parents who have to work. There aren't many people now who can afford to have one person not working. And so it's been the only company I've worked for that's truly set up for flexible and hybrid working. So we're given all the tools, so it makes it easy. You know, we all actually do quite love coming into the office. So most people do come in once, two, three times a week, but there's no expectation. So if, suddenly your child is sick or your car breaks down, that happened to me the other week, no one bats an eyelid. They're like, no problem, like just join digitally. Um, and then we have like core working hours, but then apart from that, we can flex where we need to. So for me personally, it means I can do my pickups, I can do my drop-offs, I can be there for school plays, I can then put my son to bed, and then I can log back on in the evening if I want to, and I can completely shift my hours to really make it work for me. And I'm not saying everybody does that, but I know for me, that was one of the biggest things that I wanted. I wanted that kind of being treated like an adult, being trusted, and just being able to work what makes sense in my life.
Yes, you just said the magic word there, trusted. I think
Yeah.
that was something that we all realised about the companies we were working at during lockdown, as
Yeah.
to whether or not you were trusted. And then suddenly it was like, maybe I'm not. Or I was very lucky where I was, but lots of people after COVID decided to move around because they thought, oh, I can't. You know what? I heard a terrible story about that the other day. Somebody said during lockdown, they all had to be on a Zoom call the whole day.
Oh,
That they had to be present, and if you were going to the bathroom you had to write a message to say where you were going because you weren't at your screen. So there were some companies that really got that wrong, because as you just said there, when you're trusted, you do more as well because you don't see it as a chore. You think, I'm so lucky to work for a flexible company. I can go and do what I need. And then it's not a chore to log back on and do a little bit more or like go above and beyond for that company. But you can really get that wrong as a
oh
company.
yeah. It's
People don't.
definitely it's definitely give and take. And I also find as well sometimes when you're working from a different location, actually you work even better because it's just completely different, isn't it? It takes you out of your norm. Like
Yeah.
yesterday I was coming back from a Redgate event and I worked on the flight. And once again, I don't have to, we're not told we have to work on the flight, but I absolutely just love working on a plane where I'm disconnected and I can completely clear my inbox. It's the best feeling. It's like the only time where you don't have Slack going, other meetings joining in the day, emails pinging in. So yeah, so I just really enjoy that kind of freedom to work where works best for me.
Yes, yeah, and a completely different mindset that you want to log in and you want to
Oh,
do that
100%.
than thinking, oh great, I've got some time to myself. I'm not going above and beyond for that company. Um, so you're obviously enjoying your time, thankfully, coming over to the tech industry, which are the
I
stories
am.
that we like to share, that you're having a good time and don't regret it. So what advice then would you give to somebody from a completely different field who is thinking about moving into tech?
I mean, I would say just acknowledging that it will be overwhelming, potentially. It definitely was for me. Um, it really, for me, was like if you're coming from a very different industry, especially, um, it's literally like going to a different country where there's a different language and you don't understand what other people are saying. It's such a vast difference. And also in the tech industry, I was really lucky because I would say the life science persona is fairly similar to tech. It's more introverted than extroverted generally. Um, you know, it, yeah, I think they're very similar, but I think if you came from like a really extroverted sector, I can't think what that would be, but something, really bold and loud, then even that could be, like a big change. So it's just accepting that it could be a bit overwhelming to start with, but as long as you kind of keep asking those questions, keep being curious, don't make it feel like, that you shouldn't be there because I think anybody can learn this stuff. It just takes time before you feel comfortable and kind of just remembering like I knew, even though I didn't understand the tech, I was still, a very accomplished marketer and events person. I knew that I would be able to learn the tech. It would take a matter of time. No one knows stuff straight away.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, just being kind to yourself a little and
Oh,
thinking,
100%.
it's just a process of learning. Um, out of curiosity, were you surprised as well when you spoke to other team members about their own journeys? Because I think it's sometimes surprising when you get in tech that you think everyone else has a computer science degree,
Yeah.
and then you realize everyone else is just like you.
Yeah. Do you know what? It was exactly like that. Because in my old roles, to be in a commercial organization, we all had to have degrees in life science. So there literally wasn't anyone I used to work with that didn't have the same kind of background that I had. So when I moved to Redgate, I was thinking, oh my goodness, everyone must have a computer science background. They must be coding since they were like 10 and all of this kind of thing. And then actually, there's so many of us that don't, but everyone's learned to pick it up. So yeah, exactly what you just said. I was really surprised. I really thought I'd be the only one, but really not.
Yes, and we are obviously at SheCanCode. We just wish that more people knew that. Like we
Mm.
try and spread that word that like everybody else is thinking the same. Not everybody came out of university knowing what they wanted to do. It's the other thing. A lot
Oh
of
yeah.
people think that the first career you pick after university is what you're going to do for the rest of your life, and that's also just such a myth.
It really is.
Don't
It
feel
really
like
is.
you have to have it now after university.
I don't think I don't know if anybody ever knows. I mean, they're lucky if they do, but I mean, I've never known exactly, or I fit for a moment in time, I feel like, yes, this is me. But then you don't know what other opportunities are even out there, like Redgate. I just had no idea about it, that it existed. So there's no way that I could have ever known that I wanted to go there until it kind of just landed, landed in front of me. So, and I've had loads of my peers from my old roles in life come up to me and just say, "So, what's it like working in a different industry?" Because so many people I know also have just stayed in that one industry for their whole career.
Yeah, but you know they're thinking it. You know they're thinking,
Yeah,
could I? And
yeah.
we always get asked, not just the could I do it, but where do I start? That
Where do I
is the
start?
yeah, people are just never sure. We always say if you do want to try the techie side of things, we always encourage people to try free boot camps, free training.
Yeah,
There's loads of really good resources because it's not for everybody. You might do a few and think, actually, this isn't for me. And it was something I was thinking about, but at least I didn't waste a lot of money or give up my job or, go in a direction that wasn't for me. So there are loads of free things just to dip your toe in the water and then just think, actually, that isn't for me. But I did like life in tech, so I might find a role that's suitable. But yeah, it's always people just kind of get stuck in their day
yeah.
role in their day jobs and think, oh, another year's gone by and I didn't go.
I think reaching out to people as well is a great thing. Use your LinkedIn network, or use things like this where, I'm always happy for people to connect with me and like ask questions. Because otherwise you just don't know. There's no way to know if you don't have anybody who you can ask. But that's always, that's where you're going to get like the honest answer of what is it really like? Is it,
Yes. We
is
get
it really
everything that
scary?
happens. Yeah, that's what you need to hear, that it wasn't plain sailing and these things happened and it came with its challenges, but it was so worth it once you landed in the right
Yeah.
company doing the right thing. So
I
yeah,
found
you
it
got
to be like the most inclusive environment I've ever been in as well. I don't, I've never been in an environment where literally everyone is so welcome. Doesn't matter background, walk of life, what you're into, who you are. Like everyone has been very, very welcoming. And I think I don't know if that's across the whole of the tech sector. I hope it is, but it
we would
definitely is
hope.
in Redgate.
We would hope, but it's definitely not, unfortunately. But there are just some really good companies that notice how do we it's not a we've noticed from some companies that not that we've worked with thankfully, but we've noticed those that get it wrong, they think it's like an overnight thing, or you can just kind of we always say oh, we started a women in tech Slack group. Oh, brilliant. But how do all of your employees feel coming to work every day? It's a completely different feeling of you can't just inject a company culture in a
No.
couple of things or a few drinks at Christmas or and they kind of get it just wrong in that sense. It's throughout everything that happens throughout the company, and even things like that flexibility that you see leadership doing, that management is
Yeah.
going to pick the kids up, and it's
Do you know,
just you see it.
I've got a great story. So on my interview, like I said, this was one of my biggest kind of reasons for changing. So on my interview, I kind of asked I had someone quite senior on my interview, and he just went to me, "Let me just share my screen and show you my calendar." And he literally showed me his calendar in this Zoom interview, and it had every single pickup in it blocked out. And then he said, "I don't take meetings past 5 because that's the time I have with my family." And I
Yeah.
just thought, wow, well, if you can do it in a senior position, then there's no reason anybody else can't do it.
Yes, I love that on an
So
interview.
nice. Yeah.
And just seeing it actually, it's not something that you've read on a website. It's
No.
you actually saw it in his diary, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. It was lovely. Just so open and transparent. It was just so different.
Amazing. Well, I could keep talking to you and picking your brains on your journey, because we are already out of time, I'm afraid. But Alison, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and for inspiring our community today. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Kaylee. It's been really lovely chatting with you too.
Thank you. And for everybody listening, as always, thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you again next time.